Hi. So, this is for our reading class today. We're going to talk about another comprehension strategy. We've been talking about different comprehension strategies. Remember, comprehension means understanding. So, if we comprehend what we read, we understand what we read. And that's what reading tests test us on. Do we understand what we read? So, the kinds of questions we get on reading tests, like the GED and the HiSET, are about comprehension skills. So think about it. We were talking about main ideas, supporting details. There are questions on the GED and the HiSET that say, what is the main idea of this passage? Or which of these is a good supporting detail? Or which of these is not a good supporting detail in this passage? Another comprehension strategy that we've talked about is sequence, making sure we understand what order different events happen in a story. Or another one we've looked at is making inferences, how we can put together logical clues to make a guess about something that isn't directly stated in the passage. And then most recently we talked about telling the difference between fact and opinion. All of these are the source of questions, comprehension questions on the GED or the HiSET. Which of these is a good inference? Which of these things is an opinion, not a fact? What order did these events happen in the story or in time? Okay, so we're going to add another comprehension strategy to our toolbox today, and that is making predictions. We do this all the time without really thinking about doing it. When we're really involved, when we're really interested in something, we make guesses about where it might go next. Think about movies that you watch. When you're in the middle of watching a movie that you really like, that you're really involved in, we do quite often make guesses about what direction this might go in. This is what I think this guy's going to do next, or here's what I think is going to happen next. And either that is what happens next, or it's not, and we're surprised. Sometimes that's a good strategy as a writer or a filmmaker, to surprise your audience, not go where they may have thought you were going to go. So we've got some passages that we can read, and then we'll see what kind of predictions we can make about what might happen in the passage next. So the first passage here, if you'll just read along with me. As Frank marched through the desert, the high winds blew sand at speeds that stung his exposed skin. He looked back and could see his footprints for hundreds of feet. Beyond that, the winds had blown them away. He had no idea how long or how far he had walked. He turned his back to the wind and opened his canteen. That's the thing to hold something to drink in, right? He attempted to pour it into his mouth, but there was not a drop. He's all out of water. He rolled his tongue around the nozzle of the canteen, but it was bone dry. Frank dropped the canteen in the sand and continued walking. His steps slowed. He was getting dizzy. The sun's rays seemed to only increase in intensity throughout the day. It hung high overhead and punished all that resided in the desert beneath it. Frank was lightheaded. He felt his knees get wobbly. Okay, what do we think's going to happen next? All right, so we could get a question on the GED or HiSET that says, which of these would most logically happen next in this story? Now, we can't just guess any old thing, although in reality there are a lot of things that could happen next. He could fall over and die, right? Or as soon as he falls over and dies, a helicopter will show up and come down and save him. Or he could go make it over the next sandhill, and in front of him he could see a lake of wonderful water. All kinds of things can happen. But based on this passage, what would be the most logical thing to happen next? And that is for him to collapse. right? Maybe die, maybe not die. Maybe he collapses and somebody finds him before he dies. But things do not look good here for Frank, right? And we can logically guess. So if we're answering a question about what would be a logical prediction that we could make, we have to base it on the clues that we have in the passage. Okay? We can't just make any wild guess. Even though, as a movie maker or as a storyteller, we could make anything happen next. But that's not what we're being asked about on the GET or HiSET or any reading comprehension test. We're being asked to understand the details in the passage and think about what logically would happen next. Okay? Okay, Valerie, look at number 2. Valerie pulled into her mother's driveway on a lovely morning in the month of May. She got the kids out of the car and walked them up to the door. Grandma smiled brightly and welcomed them. So nice to see you, children. You too, Valerie. I hope that you have a wonderful vacation. We will see you in a couple of weeks. The kids kissed their mother goodbye and went outside to play in the warm sun. They were wearing shorts and t-shirts and had sunblock on their noses. Only on their noses? As Mom pulled out of the driveway, a storm rolled across the sky. The temperature suddenly dropped. Grandma looked at the weather report and saw a bunch of snowflake icons across the next few days. Then Grandma looked at the shivering children in their summer clothes. Do you have anything warmer in your bags, kids? The children shook their heads. Grandma replied, Okay, well, hop in the car. We've got to go to the store. Tiny snowflakes began to fall. Okay, what event is most likely to happen next in this story? What's going to be the next part of this story? Well, we already know where they're headed, right? And why. They brought summer clothes. Now it looks like it's going to snow. And they got to go to the store. So the next scene, the next thing that's going to happen is they're going to go to the store and buy some clothes, right? Now, in reality, in a story like that, any old thing could happen next. Maybe, their mom could come racing back and say, wow, I can't go. If it's going to snow, I was going to go to the beach, but now I can't. So come on, kids, let's go home. So anything could really happen in a story or a movie or something like that, like this. But based on the clues in the passage, what's the most logical next thing to happen? And that is we see them at the store buying clothes. Okay? Let's try one more. Let's see. Actually, we don't have time to watch one more, to fit one more into this video. But I'll make one more short video with some other examples just to make sure we know what we're doing. Okay? All right.